There is trouble brewing in the Arizona Democratic Party. We've been following this story for, about a month, Joe? Is that right? Where the Democratic Party chair, Robert Branscombe II, has gotten basically votes of no confidence from a lot of the top leaders, including the statewide elected Democrats, the governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General, the 2 senators, and it's not going very well. So here, most recently now, he's been censured by the Democratic Party. The censure and redirected campaign coordination come as Democrats look to a July 16th meeting to consider whether to remove Branscombe as chair. He has said that he would not step down. The chairs of all 15 county Democratic parties signed off on a lengthy letter in late June detailing what they viewed as Branscombe's shortcomings. Many of them were driven by fundraising concerns. Joining us right now is Democratic strategist Matt Grodsky. Matt, this looks like all the dirty laundry is out for everyone to see right now. This can't be something, as a strategist, can't be something you're excited about.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me sit in your chair today, so I appreciate that.
Of course.
No, it's not ideal to have, as you said, dirty laundry out there, but I think what's important for people to remember is, other parties have had this issue before. The GOP had their own episodes of embarrassing content, but as far as the party apparatus is concerned, beyond the shenanigans with the chair, the statewide elected officials are moving forward as our candidates down ballot to make sure that they're geared up and doing what they have to do for the 2026 midterms. And that's really what we should be focused on, and that's what I'm certainly telling my clients. But yeah, other than that, it's entertaining times, I guess, for the bubble.
Is there a coordinated effort to get rid of Mr. Branscombe here, Matt? Because that's what he says is going on.
There is not, as far as I'm concerned. There's certainly been voices in the state committee that have called for him to go, and there's people that have signed a petition that want that to happen. And ultimately, as I think was referenced in the letter at the opening of the show, that will be up to the state committee members, the body of Democrats that represent the party in Arizona, to decide on July 16th.
So what do you make of this? Branscombe said that he found this email that he said he was investigating and uncovering a plot to remove him. What would you say? He calls it a plot to remove him. You would call it?
Well, I don't have firsthand knowledge of it, but based on what I'm seeing from available reporting, it feels a little bit like Arthur Miller's "There's Witches in Salem," right? It sounds to me like an email was taken out of context, distributed. It sounds like potentially inappropriately to other members, which I think invited the censure that came from the executive board at the onset of this week. So, again, it's hard to parse all of the information that's coming out. It seems like it changes every day, but ultimately, regardless of your opinion as a Democrat in the party of the situation, it is a distraction. And it's coming at a time when, candidates across the board need to be focused on seizing on the momentum. Just look at the big, beautiful bill and all that stuff, right? There's things that we need to be talking about and reminding voters of.
Matt Grodsky is a Democratic strategist and joining us right now as we talk about some of the confusion going on within the state party. Can the party move forward with Branscombe at the helm right now? As you mentioned, there's a lot of chaos. I mean, how does it solve itself without having a change?
Absolutely. They're already moving forward. It was announced this week that there's an organization called the Copper State Victory Group, which is being run out of Navajo County. As I mentioned, the statewide candidates, they're moving forward on that, and candidates across the board are already gearing up for their individual campaigns. I like to describe it to people that get a little confused as, the party itself, it's like a multi-engine aircraft, right? So if one engine goes down, it's not pure catastrophe for the whole situation. It can still fly, it can still land, it's doing plenty of things. And I was at the Maricopa County Democratic Party convention this past weekend, and what was made abundantly clear in speech after speech is that whatever's happening at ADP, that's going to take care of itself one way or the other. What's important is that everybody else is moving forward.
Top Arizona Democrats have censured their state party chair, and now Robert Branscombe, he says that he's not going to step down. He's repeatedly noted that he took office with little institutional support, his words. And in early June, he said that he predicted fundraising was going to pick up. The Democrats in the state had a meeting. Has fundraising picked up at all over the summer? We're about a month in now.
I don't have that indication. In fact, the treasurer for the Arizona Democratic Party sounded the alarm. I believe it was about a week or so ago, saying, the financial situation has not gotten better. At our state committee meeting last month, every indication was that the party could be broke by the end of the year. And that's a whole other reason why it's important that there's another institution like this Copper State Victory to be out there making sure that there is a functioning apparatus that can fundraise and move forward in a crucial election year.
I want to dive in a little bit deeper into that the Copper State plan that you're talking about. We'll do that here in our next segment. But,
sure.
Matt, let's go back. Matt Grodsky is a Democratic strategist as we're discussing what's going on with the censure of the party chair. You made mention that it's the party is the apparatus sort of like a multi-engine jet, so that if one jet goes down, the plane doesn't crash. But what if the captain and the co-pilot both ate the fish, right? Roger, right? Over, under? I mean, at some point, who's flying the plane? Because right now, it looks like the pilot ate the fish.
No, I love that. I love that comparison. I think what's important is people have to understand how a party works, right? So you've got, at the head of the Arizona Democratic Party is a chair, and at the head of that is, or down from that, there's the state committee members, which is, a little over 650 people that make up the bylaws and the rules for the state party. But in terms of the party strategy, the brand, what it represents to the broader electorate, the voting population that's not involved in the day-to-day goings on of the party. Those are the statewide elected officials. And those individuals are the ones that really set the tone and drive the strategy forward, in my opinion, and what I've seen in my time as a consultant and when I was the communications director for the state party back in 2020. So I would just change your premise a little bit. I don't necessarily think that the chair is the pilot in this situation. I think the chair is one of many other engines. I think it's the elected officials that are in the cockpit, and they represent the brand.
Real quick one for you. Back up and take us into the weeds just a little bit here.
Sure.
How did Branscombe get elected as the chair of the party? Because at this point today, July 2nd, me reading tea leaves feels like most prominent Democrats, and a lot of Democrats, period, in the state, seem to want him out. Didn't a number of those people have to sign off on him being the chair?
Yeah, so we're not going to try to take too much time on this because it's long. We're covering 6 months plus of developments. But chairs are elected to 2-year terms, and they are elected by the state committee members. So as I said, it's that 600-person plus body. You do that reorg meeting in January. So we did that then. The chairwoman, who was the incumbent, Yolanda Bejarano, who we helped get elected back in 2023 for her 2-year term. She was voted out by members of the committee, and Branscombe was the new selection, right? And not every elected official endorsed him. Many of them wanted Bejarano again. But what's evident is that many of the elected officials had reached out to him, to try and, usher in a good period, to be helpful, especially since he was new to the organization. And then you fast forward to April. It was Easter weekend, and the email had gone out, the now infamous email where he essentially lambasted, our senators, members of his own party, and that's where the statements came from the statewide elected officials that they had essentially lost confidence in him. Since then, they have not commented, they have not engaged, and it's been essentially members in the state committee, as it should be, deciding amongst themselves what the trajectory of the party should be, right? And, there's different factions in that. There's county chairs, there's legislative district chairs. But ultimately, we've reached a point now where there is this censure, and then the county chairs put out a joint statement earlier this week basically saying this is concerning. So that is the very fast rundown of how we've gotten to this point.
As if the bickering between the party and the chair isn't enough to concern some candidates, now there seems to be some confusion over where the brains of the party are even located. Another bizarre but not unprecedented twist. That's next on the Chris and Joe Show, KTAR News. Joining us in the studio right now is Matt Grodsky, he's a Democratic strategist, as we've been discussing this censure vote that came down by the party against their own chair, Robert Branscombe II. and the censure and the redirected campaign coordination coming as Democrats looking to a July 16th meeting to consider whether to remove Branscombe as chair. I should also note that Greg Freeman is the party treasurer, and he reported last month that the party was on a trajectory to run out of money before the end of the year. Spending is outpacing fundraising. That seems concerning, Matt. As a strategist, I know a lot of what you strategize about is raising money.
Yes, you're correct about that. You can't spend more than what you take in. But I think that's why it's so important to stress for folks that, the Copper State Victory organization is out there and it's operating through the Navajo County Democratic Party. Now, for folks that are kind of new to the terminology here, we always have a coordinated campaign in these types of elections. Folks that are paying extra attention might remember Mission for Arizona back in 2020 and 2022. So there's always that element, and it's always got a fun name and some cool branding. So really the only difference this time is it's running through a county party instead of the state party. And that kind of ensures that there's funds, there's resources to do all the things you would traditionally do with the state party. And it's also evident to me, based on what's out there, that it's an additive resource, right? The state party can still do what it wants, and if it miraculously turns it around its financial situation, the more the merrier, right? But I think what's important is at this stage of the game, they have an entity that's able to do the work.
So when you say Copper State Victory, what you're talking about are the plans originating from the Navajo County Democratic Committee.
That's correct. It'll run through that committee. It's a committee that'll run through that committee, yes.
So I guess I'm just a little bit confused. Why not the statewide committee? I mean, isn't this evidence of the dysfunction within the state party if you have to go to an individual county, especially one that is, I mean, you're talking Show Low, Holbrook, Winslow, and then everything north of I-40 up to the Utah border. We're not even talking about Pima County here. We're talking about one of the smaller populated counties.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I take a different view of it, actually, and I think it speaks to the party building that we've done here over the last decade. We've got lots of options on places we can go. And when it comes to Navajo, the chairwoman there, Miss Afoy, she's fantastic. In a lot of the races we had 2020 and 2022, while not a lot of our candidates carried Navajo County, the numbers there due to Democratic organizing in rural areas really bolstered our statewide totals. So they've got good infrastructure out there, and they are set up correctly as a federal organization so that it's easier to coordinate with an organization like Copper State. So I actually think it's a better situation. And just given the uncertainty with the financial situation and the leadership predicament with the state party, this is better, right? It's devoid of distraction. It's fully focused on the operation. And I think ultimately that's why that decision was made.
You just said the key word. I was going to ask you, infrastructure. You said Navajo County does have the infrastructure. So you're confident that a smaller county party is equipped to handle the big type of fundraising and the dollars that we are going to see pour in for the Democrats in this case, or, if it was, Republicans on the other side, because presumably there will be, millions of dollars that pour in here that Navajo County is now going to have to manage. You're confident that you said they have the infrastructure to do it. You're confident they have the volume, the number of people to make that go?
Yep. And the reason I say that is because, and I think you probably saw it in the news stories that are out there, this is not just happening in a vacuum. They are going to have folks from the DGA, from DAS, from the Attorney General's Association, all the major players that normally get involved with a coordinated campaign like this, providing resources, consulting, driving all these things from the air. And I think if you go back to the McCain example from, I believe it was 2010, back when he kind of divorced himself from the AZGOP at that time and went through Yuma, I'd say he was probably pretty happy with those results as well, even though that's a smaller county. So I think that the proof is there, and that's why I'm confident that Navajo is going to be just fine.
So Matt Grodsky, Democratic strategist, you just brought up McCain using Yuma County, and in the past we also saw when Kelly Ward was the chair of the GOP, and her and Kerry Lake weren't getting along very well, right? Yep. They had different visions. At the time, we would have looked at that and we would have said, wow, the Arizona GOP is completely dysfunctional. They can't get their act together. You've got the major figureheads aren't coordinating with the party itself. This looks like total dysfunction. Why should I feel differently about the Democratic Party?
You would have said that, and I'm not gonna gaslight you that the perception and the way it looks at the state party, it doesn't look good, right? Like I'm not gonna dispute that. I don't think anybody in their right mind should. But I think what's important is you've got this in very important workaround through this Copper State organization, and you've got an institution spread out amongst 15 counties, right? I think it's easy to kind of bottle everything up into one state party institution and say that's the party. There are well-organized counties and legislative districts across this state that, aside from the results of 2024, they know how to organize, they know how to get voters engaged, and they know how to win elections. So yes, dysfunction in the state party apparatus as a whole, which, people that like to see that, they can get their popcorn out. But at the end of the day, the right people are making the right decisions to make sure that we're focused on the operation and actually winning next year.
There's a Democratic consultant out there, Stacey Pearson, who says that in this case, that using Copper State victory is going around the state party. That's her words. So what's the point of the state Democratic Party then if you're going around the state party to utilize Copper State victory here? Why have one?
I don't disagree with the characterization. I think you've got it because it's there to be additive again, right? Like, again, if they turn the situation around, whether the chair stays or they get a new chair, whatever happens post the 16th, that's for others to decide. But it's just another avenue that you have. But in the meantime, given the uncertainty, you have to have an organization that can go out there, and pursue the things that you need to focus on to win. So I think it makes sense. Any one of us, it's a common sense solution, right? If one mechanism goes out, you should have a contingency, and that's this one.
Arizona Democrats have censured their state party chair, and looks like, reading some tea leaves, like he could be on track for removal. There's going to be another meeting coming up this month. Democratic strategist Matt Grodsky joins us here talking about Copper State victory and what their role is going to be fundraising for the Arizona Democratic Party moving forward. Matt, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. Happy 4th.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.